Daf Yomi, Tractate Avodah Zarah, page 46, top of the page, with the words Amar lo Rabbi Akiva. V'lo kvar nemar abet abdun im ken ma tam lomar v'yavadatem eth shema min hamakom hahu l'chanod la Hashem. Rabbi Akiva said to him, but isn't it already stated, you shall destroy, in Deuteronomy 12, verse 2? This obviously includes rooting out all traces of idols. If so, what is the meaning when the verse states, and you shall destroy their name out of that place? This means that it is a mitzvah to give it a nickname. Yachol l'shevach, l'shevach sovadaitach, el yachol lo l'shevach kono l'gnai. Talmud Lomar, Shakes Shaksenu Ta'ev Ta'abenu Ki Cherem Hu. One might have thought that one may get a positive nickname. The Gemara interjects, would it enter your mind that one may give a positive nickname to an idol? Rather, the Braita means that one might have thought that the reference is to a nickname that is neither positive nor negative. Therefore, the verse states, and you shall not bring an abomination to your house and be accursed like it. You shall detest it, and you shall abhor it, for it is a prescribed item. Deuteronomy 7:26. This verse clearly indicates that the nickname should be a negative one. Hakeitzad Hoyu koeren oisabes galio koeren oisabes kario Pnei melech pnei kelev ein kol ein kotz. How so? What type of nickname is this referring? If the idol worshippers would call their house of worship the house of elevation, one should call it the house of digging. If they call it the all-seeing eye, one should call it the eye of a thorn. I think they missed one here. It says, if they call it house of elevation, you call it house of digging. House of a king, you should call it house of a dog. They didn't translate that for some reason. Pnei melech, pnei kelev. Okay? And then ayin kol, it works better with the Hebrew because it's like pnei melech, pnei kelev. It sounds like you're joking. You're making fun of it. Or ayin kol, ayin kotz. Okay? Eye of the thorn. Okay. Tana kamei dav sheshes agoy b'aydim ezahorim. It's agvois. Hey mutarin. V'avdien b'sayif. V'ezroim. V'ezroim hinasurin. V'avdien b'sayif. The Tana who recited the Mishnayot and Braitot in the study hall taught a Braita before Rosh Hashanah with regard to the halacha in the case of the Gentiles who worship the mountains and the hills. The mountains and hills are permitted, but their worshippers are punished with decapitation by the sword. But with regard to Gentiles who worship plants and vegetables, the plants and vegetables are forbidden, and the worshippers are punished with decapitation by the sword. Okay? Amar le the Amar Lachmani Rav Yossi va Yehudahi the Amar Ilan Nishnat'o v'lebesof Abdo Asur. Rav Sheshet said to him, who is the Tana who said this to you? It must be Rabbi Yossi, son of Rabbi Yehuda, who says that a tree that one planted and subsequently worshipped is forbidden. ולוקמה באילן שנטעו מתחילה לכך ורבנן לא אסר כדאיתך תקטני דוגי דהר מהר שלא נטעו מתחילה לכך אף היי נמי שלא נטעו מתחילה לכך. The Gemara asks, but why not interpret the Braita as referring to a tree that one initially planted for idol worship, and then the ruling would be consistent with the opinion of the rabbis as well. The Gemara answers, this should not enter your mind, as the Brayta teaches the case of plants and vegetables as being similar to the case of a mountain. Therefore, one can extrapolate that just as with regard to a mountain, it is a case where one did not initially plant it for this purpose, as mountains are not planted by people. So too, this case of plants and vegetables is a case where one did not initially plant it for this purpose. Itmar, we learned, Avnei har shinin nidal delu bnei Rabbi Chia v'Rabbi Yochanan chad amasurois chad amutorois ma'etem edemad amutorois kahal mahar she'ein bo tefisat gedei adam umutar avhani she'ein bahen tefisat gedei adam umutari. It was stated in the halacha, in a case where a Gentile worships boulders that naturally became dislodged from a mountain, is subject to a dispute between the sons of Rabbi Chia on one hand and Rabbi Yochanan on the other. One side says they are forbidden, and one side says they're permitted. The Gemara asks, what is the reason of the one who says that they are permitted? The Gemara answers, the status of the dislodged stones is still like the status of the mountain itself, just as in the case of a mountain. It is not the product of human involvement, and therefore it is permitted to try to benefit from it, even after his worship. So too, these borders, which are not the product of human involvement, are permitted. Madahal sheken mechubal v'hematochiyah. The Gemara raises an objection. What is notable about a mountain? It is notable in that it is attached to the ground. This may be the reason for the leniency concerning it. And this does not apply to boulders. The Gemara responds, the case of a worshipped animal can prove that it is not relevant, as it is permitted to derive benefit from a worshipped animal even though it is not attached to the ground. The Gemara defends its objection. What is notable about an animal is notable in that it is a living, animate being. This may be the reason for the leniency concerning it, and this does not apply to boulders. The Gemara responds, the case of a mountain can prove that this is not relevant, as it is permitted to derive benefit from a mountain that was worshipped, even though it is not a living being. The Chazo Hadin, and their inference has reverted to its starting point. Lo ri'izeh k'rizeh, v'lo ri'izeh k'rizeh, atzad ha-shomesh behen, she'en behen, tevisas yidei adam mutar, av kol she'en behen, tevisas yidei adam mutar. And the inference has reverted to its starting point, and the halacha can be inferred from a combination of the two sources. The aspect of this case, that of a mountain, is not like the aspect of that case, that of an animal. And the aspect of that case is not like the aspect of this case. Their common element is that they are not products of human involvement, and it is permitted to draw benefit from them. So too, in any case of worshipped objects that are not the products of human involvement, including boulders, they are permitted. The Gemara objects, what is notable about the common element between the case of mountain and that of an animal that prevents utilizing it as a paradigm for other uses? These worshipped objects are notable in that they were not altered from their natural form. Perhaps that is why their status remains unchanged. By contrast, a dislodged boulder has been removed from its original position. Rather, the halacha that a border that is dislodged from a mountain is still permitted after its worship is derived from the case of a blemished animal and from the case of a mountain, both of which are permitted after having been worshipped. The notable aspect of a mountain in that it is an unaltered object and is attached to the ground is countered by the case of a blemished animal. And the notable aspect of a blemished animal in that it is a living being is countered by the case of a mountain. Therefore, it can be derived from the common element of the two cases that just as these two are not products of human involvement and they are not rendered forbidden by worship, so too a dislodged boulder is not rendered forbidden by worship. Alternatively, the halacha can be derived from the case of an unblemished animal and from the case of a withered tree, both of which are permitted after having been worshipped. The notable aspect of an unblemished animal in that it is unaltered and a living being is countered by the case of a withered tree. And the notable aspect of a withered tree in that it is attached to the ground is countered by the case of an unblemished animal. The Gemara asks, and what is the reasoning of the one who deems worship boulders forbidden? The Gemara answers, according to that option, it is in order to teach this halacha. It is written, and you shall not bring an abomination into your house and be accursed like it. You shall detest it, and you shall abhor it, for it is a prescribed item. Deuteronomy 7:26. This verse teaches that although one may theoretically derive by logical inference to permit the boulders, do not derive that halacha. The Gemara introduced the case of a boulder that naturally dislodged from a mountain as the subject of a dispute between the sons of Yehoshua and Yehoshua, but it did not specify who subscribes to which opinion. The Gemara suggests it may be concluded that it is the sons of Rabbi Yehoshua who deem it permitted, as Hezekiah, Rabbi Yehoshua's son, raised a dilemma. If one erected an egg in order to bow to it as an idol, what is the halacha? Stood an egg up? I don't know how you do that, fall over. Is it then prohibited to derive benefit from the egg? The Gemara explains a proof evident in your mind that this stone is referring to a case where one erected an egg in order to bow to it, and then he bowed to it and he raises a dilemma as to whether this erecting of the egg is considered a significant act of human involvement that renders the egg forbidden as an object of idol worship, or whether it is not considered a significant act of human involvement. But if he had not erected the egg, there would be no dilemma, as clearly it would not become forbidden. Accordingly, one can conclude from this dilemma that the sons of Rabbi Yehoshua are the ones who deem the boulder permitted, since it is not a product of human involvement. Lo, Lo'ilam emelach b'nei Rabbi Yehoshua de'asri yishtachava ela aval gav delo zakava asura v'hacha b'ma yaskinan kegon shezakaf beitza yishtachavot la v'lo yishtachava la. The Gemara rejects this proof. No, actually, I will say to you that perhaps it is the sons of Rabbi Yehoshua who deem the dislodged boulder forbidden after it was worshipped, and they similarly hold that in the case of the egg, if he bowed to it, even if he did not erect it, the egg is certainly forbidden. And the dilemma is as follows. Here we are dealing with a case where he erected the egg in order to bow to it, but he ultimately did not bow to it. Hezekiah's dilemma was whether a designation of an object as an idol renders it forbidden even without actual worship. Uleman, leman demar avodah zarah sheYisrael asura miyad asura. Leman de'amar ad shete'eva ven ha lo palcha. The Gemara asks, but according to whom does he raise the dilemma? If it is according to the one who says that any aspect of a Jew, any object of a Jew who dedicated it to idol worship is immediately rendered forbidden, there is no place for the dilemma. The egg is clearly forbidden. If it is according to the one who says that an object of idol worship is not forbidden until it is actually worshipped, there is also no place for the dilemma, as the egg was not worshipped and is therefore permitted. Lo, sricha. The Gemara answers by reformulating the case. No, those are not the cases with regard to which the dilemma is raised. It is necessary to raise it with regard to a case where one erected an egg in order to bow to it, but ultimately he did not bow to it. And then a Gentile came along and bowed to it. It is with regard to this case that Hezekiah raises the dilemma. Ki or Chizkiah. Ki ha Yamar Yehuda Shmuel Yisrael shezayich levein l'ishtachava isla u'bagoy v'ishtachava lo asura v'komim bo'elei levein hu deminacha zigiva ta'avol betzim ba'a oy dilma lo yishna teigu. There is an established principle that one cannot render forbidden an item that is not his. In this case, the egg can be rendered forbidden only by a combination of the Jewish owner's indicated intention and the Gentiles' act of worship. This dilemma assumes that which Rabbi Yehuda says, that Shmuel says, in the case of a Jew who erected a brick in order to bow to it, and the Gentile came and bowed to it, it is forbidden. And Chizkiah raises the following dilemma with regard to the case of an egg. Is it specifically a brick that is forbidden, as it's being erected is clearly recognizable, and it is therefore a clear indication of intent on behalf of the Jewish owner? But as for an egg, erecting it is how you erect an egg. I don't get it. It's not enough of an indication, and it is therefore permitted. Or perhaps there is no difference, and the egg would similarly be forbidden. The Gemara concludes, Teku. This question shall stand unresolved. Abai Rabbi Rachama. Rami Barcham raises a dilemma. In the case of one who bows down to a mountain, what is the halacha with regard to the permissibility of using its stones for building the altar in the temple?